No man is truly free unless he masters himself. That's what Epictetus said nearly 2,000 years ago. Now imagine this. You re a man who spent his whole life auditioning for a role you were never meant to play. You chase, you please, you apologize, you adjust, giving away your time, your peace, your money, all to be good enough for someone who, deep down, was never even yours to begin with. If that line stings a little, good, it means you're still awake. Epictetus, the slave who became a philosopher, once warned, if a man gave your body to any stranger he met, you'd be furious. But you hand over your mind to anyone who crosses your path, and you feel no shame. Think about that. We've become grown men with calloused hands but soft spines, constantly giving away our peace of mind to a pretty face, to a partner's approval, or to the desperate hope that maybe she'll stay. Epictetus didn't write about women to attack them. He wrote to warn men about themselves, their craving for validation, their fear of rejection, their confusion between desire and duty. And if there's one lesson he made absolutely clear, it's this: you do not owe your happiness to any woman. Let me repeat that for the man who thinks buying roses earns him respect. You do not owe your happiness to any woman. If you believe you do, then, according to Epictetus, you've already surrendered the only thing the gods ever gave you full control over, your reason. In his Enchiridion, he said, keep before your eyes death and exile and everything that seems terrible. But remember that none of these are truly your own or under your control. And you know what else isn't under your control? Her emotions, her moods, her loyalty, her choices. Yet every day men wake up and willingly build their self-worth on those shifting sands. They text first, wait 3 hours for a reply, internalize the silence, spiral, then search online for how to win her back. Brother Epictetus would be rolling in his Stoic grave, because he taught one core truth. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That's it. That's the foundation of freedom. She is not up to you. Her affection is not up to you. Her attention is not up to you. What is up to you? Your values, your reactions, your time, your purpose. And if you compromise those for the sake of keeping a woman, you've committed what Epictetus would call philosophical suicide, the death of your inner citadel. You weren't born to orbit someone else's moods. You weren't put here to be the emotional support system for someone who doesn't even support herself. And yet, you do it. You tolerate the disrespect. You silence your voice. You say yes when you mean no. You call it love, but what it really is captivity. Because as Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Let that sink in. If you find yourself doing things that betray your own values just to keep her happy, you are not in a relationship. You're in captivity. And the ransom being paid is your dignity. But here's the real tragedy. You've been taught to believe that love. You've been told that enduring disrespect is noble, that compromising yourself is romantic, that chaos means passion. You confuse peace with boredom, and drama with meaning. And in doing so, you dishonor everything Stoicism stands for. Epictetus never said, tolerate madness for the sake of love. What he actually said was, when someone provokes you, remember it is your judgment that provokes you. Hold back that judgment, and you are safe. Translation: if she yells, let her. If she storms out, open the door. If she withholds affection to manipulate you, walk away. Not because you're cold, but because you're centered. Because you refuse to let your emotional thermostat sit in someone else's hands. Because your peace is yours. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The one thing a man should never do with a woman is let her rule him. Not because women are evil or inferior, but because no human being should have the power to control your inner life without your permission. And yet, so many men hand over that power willingly. They let their peace, their purpose, and even their wallets be drained dry, all because they forgot who they were. You see it everywhere. A man dates a woman who makes his life worse, but he justifies it. But I love her. Epictetus would laugh. He'd say, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid regarding external things. Don't wish to seem wise, become wise. In other words, if your version of love looks like self-destruction, then what you're feeling isn't love, it's fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being unwanted, fear of starting over. And that fear, it makes slaves out of men. Emotional slaves, financial slaves, slaves to lust, to memory, to fantasy. That's why Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding what lies beyond our control. So let me ask you, is her reaction in your control? No. Is her opinion of you in your control? No. Is her loyalty guaranteed by your goodness? Never. Then why have you made her the sun around which your entire world revolves? You want to know another thing a man should never do with a woman? Try to fix her. You're not her therapist. You're not her savior. Yet too many men believe that with enough love, patience, and effort, they can transform her, that one day, she'll finally see him, love him, respect him. But Epictetus had no patience for that delusion. He said, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. If you think you can fix someone who doesn't want to change, you haven't learned a thing. Men waste years trying to repair what was never theirs to fix. They shrink themselves. silence their truth, compromise their ambitions, all to keep a connection that only survives when they stay small. That's not love, that's spiritual castration. And while you bleed out under the banner of being a good man, Epictetus is whispering through the centuries. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Stop talking about self-respect, live it. Stop preaching about standards, hold them, because the moment your actions contradict your values, especially for a woman, you lose. Not just her, yourself. And once you lose yourself, what's left? A hollow shell laughing at jokes he doesn't find funny, nodding through disrespect he swore he'd never tolerate, calling it love, when really, it's fear. That's not stoicism, that's self-betrayal. Epictetus didn't pity men like that. He corrected them. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. You said you wanted peace, so why do you keep chasing chaos? You said you wanted a queen, so why do you tolerate a tyrant? You said you were a man, but every day, you beg for affection like a child. Epictetus would call that tragic, not because you're weak, but because you've forgotten your birthright autonomy, not isolation, autonomy. He said, no great thing is created suddenly. There must be time. Give your best, and the rest is not yours to command. So stop forcing outcomes. Stop over-expecting. Stop performing, because the man who lives to win approval will never earn respect. Why? Because the moment she senses you fear losing her, she knows she owns you. Never let her become your judge, your therapist, or your god. Because the moment you do, the relationship turns into a courtroom. She's the jury, and you're always on trial. You suppress your truth, walk on eggshells, second-guess every instinct, just to avoid her disapproval. And in doing that, you betray the very essence of Stoicism, living in accordance with nature, not in fear of emotions. Epictetus said, it is not he who gives abuse or blows who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting. Translation, she may call you names, she may provoke you, but the moment you react, you've chosen to be disturbed. So what should you do? Be still, be unmoved, be free. But modern men, they don't want freedom. They want permission, permission to feel worthy, permission to speak their truth, permission to lead. Worst of all, they wait for women to give them that permission. We've fallen far from the wisdom of the ancients. Epictetus didn't wait for anyone's validation. He took ownership of his soul. He taught, we are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. He never said, go find closure. He said, go find clarity within yourself. Because here's the truth, most men avoid. The more you outsource your confidence, the more fragile it becomes. Every time you make her approval your compass, you lose direction. Every time you depend on her praise to feel proud, you surrender your self-respect, and every time you chase love at the cost of your principles, you're not being romantic, you're exiling yourself from your own identity. So what must a man never do with a woman? Simple. Never let her define your worth. Never let her replace your values. Never let her emotions become the weather system of your life. Because if she can make you, she can unmake you. And a man who lets himself be unmade, a man he has a reflection, constantly shifting, forgetting that he once stood for something. Men today aren't failing because they unloved. They refailing because they've forgotten how to love themselves. Not through ego, but through discipline, boundaries, and refusal. Refusal to be swayed by temptation, refusal to beg for attention, refusal to betray their principles just to keep company. Epictetus never said, be agreeable. He said, seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. That's not a call to passivity. That's a call to detachment, to be still, to be unshaken, to want only what aligns with nature. And brother, chasing a woman who disrespects you, that's not natural. That's weakness disguised as devotion. You were not made to orbit someone else's gravity. You were made to stand still, a mountain, not a leaf. But how many times have you betrayed your truth to keep her calm? How many times have you silenced your instinct because you were scared of losing her? How many times have you said, it's not worth the fight, only to feel something inside you die a little more? Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Yet we live in a world where men call themselves kings while living at the mercy of someone else's moods. You think you're strong because you tolerate her chaos, but real strength, endurance. It's independence. You're not strong because you stay in dysfunction. You're strong when you no longer need dysfunction to feel alive. And here's the part most men want to hear. Many women test men, not out of cruelty, but instinct. To see if you wobble, to see if you fold, to see if you'll trade your spine for her smile. And most men do. They bend. They apologize for things they didn't do. They send flowers, promise change, and try to earn back what was never truly theirs. But how many times have you betrayed your truth to keep her calm? How many times have you silenced your instinct because you were scared of losing her? How many times have you said, it's not worth a fight, only to feel something inside you die a little more? Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Yet we live in a world where men call themselves kings while living at the mercy of someone else's moods. You think you're strong because you tolerate her chaos, but real strength endurance, It's independence. You're not strong because you stay in dysfunction. You're strong when you no longer need dysfunction to feel alive. And here's the part most men don't want to hear. Many women test men, not out of cruelty, but instinct. To see if you wobble, to see if you fold, to see if you'll trade your spine for her smile. And most men do. They bend. They apologize for things they didn't do. They send flowers, promise change, and try to earn back what was never truly theirs. But Epictetus warned us, when someone acts badly toward you, remember they do so because they believe it's right. It is not possible for them to act according to your perception, only theirs. Meaning, stop trying to convince her to see your value. If she can't see it, she's not meant to. Her disrespect doesn't reflect your worth. It reflects her nature. When you beg for understanding, when you plead for her to see your side, you're not arguing for love, you're arguing for your own unworthiness. And a man should never do that. He should never plead for recognition, never debate his value, never teach a woman how to treat him. That's not leadership, that's surrender, and not the noble kind. A Stoic does not chase, he builds, he cultivates, he becomes, and if she recognizes it, good. If she doesn't, even better. Because you've just been spared from someone who couldn't meet your standard. A woman who has truly meant to walk beside a man of virtue, won't ask him to abandon his values to earn her affection. She recognized them, she aligned with them, she thrived in the calm he creates. But that only happens when the man himself isn't lost, when he is not soft, shapeless, or uncertain. You weren't born to convince anyone to choose you. You were born to choose yourself again and again, especially when it's hard. Especially when walking away feels like tearing your soul apart. Especially when you're tempted to lower your standards just to keep her close. Because if you have to betray yourself to be loved, then what you're getting isn't love, it's tolerance. It's conditional affection wrapped in emotional currency. And the price you pay is your soul. Epictetus never told men to hate women. He told them to love wisdom more than comfort, to love virtue more than validation, and to never confuse being desired with being respected. But most men don't want to hear that. They'd rather blame luck or women today than admit they untrained in self-respect. They'd rather call her toxic than confront their own surrender. And that's the true tragedy. Not that women are difficult, but that men are directionless. Men who give everything, their time, their energy, their money, their emotional bandwidth, until they forget they were meant to protect something, their peace. Epictetus left us with this warning. It is better to die of hunger, exempt from grief and fear, than to live in affluence with disturbance. In other words, it's better to be alone in truth than partnered in chaos. Better to have nothing and still recognize yourself than to have everything and feel hollow inside. So stop telling yourself you're being patient. You're not, you're afraid. Stop saying you're being loving. You're not, you're addicted. Stop saying, it's just a phase. No, it's a test. And you're failing it every time you refuse to walk away. Because the one thing a man should never do with a woman is betray who he is, just to be loved by her. Once you do that, everything collapses. Your standards, your self-image, your direction, and worst of all, your ability to lead your own life. So if what you've heard so far makes something inside you stir good, that's the ancient fire waking up. That's the part of you that remembers. You weren't meant to serve a throne built on shifting moods. You were meant to build a kingdom within, unmoved, unbroken, unbought. Let the world call you cold. Let her call you arrogant. Let the weak call you detached. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be unshaken. Epictetus once said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought, foolish, and stupid. And that's the part most men can't stomach, because deep down, they still crave approval. They don't want to be the villain in her story. They don't want to be the bad guy, so they bend their own truth just to appear kind, reasonable, or emotionally mature. But that's the secret. Sometimes you have to let her think you're the villain, just to stay the hero of your own story. Because the truth is, you can live like a Stoic and be everyone's favorite at the same time. The man who stands for something will always be misunderstood by those who stand for nothing. Epictetus didn't chase reputation. He chased freedom. And that's the essence of Stoicism in relationships. Freedom through self-control. You can love deeply, but you can't lose yourself. You can feel compassion, but you can't surrender clarity. You can be kind, but you can't become weak. Modern society loves to confuse those things. It tells you, if you love her, prove it. Sacrifice for her. Do everything for her. But Epictetus would look at you and say, you're serving a master, not sharing a bond. A Stoic man doesn't serve emotion, he guides it. He doesn't react, he responds. He doesn't fall in love, he walks in love, with discipline and direction. And if you truly want to live like a Stoic man, you have to stop making your peace negotiable, because peace isn't a luxury. It's the foundation. Without peace, every argument becomes a war. Every silence becomes a punishment. Every glance becomes a trigger. You start overanalyzing texts, reading tone into emojis, waiting for validation that never comes. And that's when she controls you, not through force, but through your own lack of restraint. Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. And that's why modern men are enslaved, not by women, not by society, but by their inability to detach. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means power. It means you can walk away without bitterness. It means you can love without ownership. It means you can stand your ground even when you're shaking inside. But let's be honest, how many men can do that? How many can say, I love her, but I will not lose myself for her? Most men confuse attachment with love. They think, if I let her go, it means I didn't care enough. No, it means you cared correctly. It means you respected yourself enough not to become a hostage. Epictetus would remind you, when you kiss your child, or your wife, say to yourself that you are kissing a mortal, that you may not be disturbed if either of them dies. At first, that sounds cold, but it's not about death. It's about acceptance. It's about recognizing impermanence, that everything you love is temporary, and trying to cling to it only brings suffering. So, what should a Stoic man do with a woman? Love her, protect her, lead her, but never depend on her for meaning. Because when you depend on her for meaning, you've already given her something she didn't ask for, your soul. And that's when she loses respect. Not because she's cruel, but because she senses you've placed her above yourself. And no woman, no matter how nurturing, can truly love a man she does in respect. That's the paradox most men don't understand. You think giving her everything makes her love you more, but it actually makes her love you less. Because the moment she sees you're willing to lose your center for her, she knows you can't protect either of you from the storm. And a woman doesn't want to be your god. She wants to feel safe beside you. She wants to know that if chaos comes, you'll still be calm. That if she breaks down, you'll remain grounded. That if she tests you, you'll stand firm not because you're angry, but because you're anchored. That's what Stoicism looks like in love. It's not emotionless, it's mastery. And mastery isn't born from arrogance, it's born from awareness. You don't need to dominate her. You just need to not be dominated by her emotions. You, Dante, need to silence her. You just need to make sure you're not silencing yourself. Because here's the bitter truth. If you can't say no, your yes means nothing. If you can't walk away, your loyalty is just fear in disguise. If you can't live without her, then you'll never truly live with her. Epictetus would laugh at the way modern men define strength. You hit the gym, you grind for money, you flex your success online, but you crumble when a woman withdraws affection. You call yourself alpha, but one cold text ruins your day. That's not masculinity. That's dependency dressed up as dominance. Real masculinity is silence without resentment. It's distance without drama. It's action without explanation. Because a Stoic man doesn't explain himself to the world. He demonstrates himself through how he moves. And when a woman sees that, when she feels that steadiness, she either aligns with it or walks away. Either way, you remain untouched. Because you understand what Epictetus meant when he said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. She can leave, she can stay, she can love you, she can hate you. None of it should move you off your path. Because your path, your principles, your peace, your presence, that's the empire you build. And a king Docente abandoned his empire to chase a queen who's unsure if she wants to rule beside him. So what's the ultimate rule? A man should never break. Never let love make you forget your mission. Because when you forget your mission, you lose polarity. And when you lose polarity, you lose her respect, her desire, and eventually, yourself. A woman doesn't fall for perfection, she falls for direction. And direction comes from stillness, from self-control, from knowing exactly who you are, even when she doesn't approve. That's what Epictetus meant when he said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Say to yourself, I will be unshaken, I will be disciplined, I will be free, and then act accordingly, even if it costs you her love. Because the only thing worse than losing her is losing yourself. Let's be real, the hardest thing a man can ever do is walk away while he still loves her. Because love makes you blind to imbalance. It whispers, maybe she'll change, or maybe I'm the problem. But Epictetus would shake his head and say, when someone shows you who they are, believe it, not as judgment, but as truth. And that's the final lesson of Stoicism in love. Accept reality without resentment. Because every time you try to argue with what is, you suffer. You say you love her, but what you really love is the idea of her, the potential that never materialized. You cling to memories, not moments. You replay her laughter in your head, but ignore the silence she left behind. You want to know what Stoicism teaches about that silence? It says, sit in it. Don't distract yourself. Don't rush to fill the void. Don't jump into someone else's arms just to prove you've moved on. Sit in it. Breathe in it. Let it break you, and then watch what remains. Because what remains after heartbreak isn't weakness, it's truth. It's the version of you that no longer negotiates your worth. It's the man who realizes peace, isn't, found in someone else's presence. It's built in their absence. It's the quiet knowing that no woman can take away what she didn't give you in the first place, your identity. And that's what Epictetus meant when he said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom doesn't mean isolation. It means self-possession. It means you can love fully but not lose your center. It means you can walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started respecting yourself. Most men think the pain of losing her will kill them. It won't. What kills you is resisting the lesson that pain is trying to teach. Pain says, you ignored the signs. Pain says, you placed her above your purpose. Pain says, you forgot your mission. So instead of drowning in the pain, listen to it. Let it refine you. Because the pain that doesn't destroy you will define you. A Stoic man doesn't run from heartbreak. He uses it as fuel to rebuild stronger. He doesn't ask, why did this happen to me? He asks, what is this trying to teach me? And what it teaches you, every single time, is this: you cannot control her. You can only control your response. She can lie, she can leave, she can love someone else. But none of that should alter your code. Because your code, your principles are your compass. And when you live by them, you stop being reactive and start being radiant. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop explaining and start embodying. You stop searching for love and start becoming love. Steady, strong, self-contained. And here's the beautiful irony. When you reach that point, women will feel it. They'll sense the stillness in you. They'll recognize that no amount of beauty, chaos, or emotion can shake your core. And that's when the dynamic shifts. Because women aren't drawn to perfection, they're drawn to presence. To that unspoken energy that says, I don't need you to complete me. I'm already whole. That's the essence of stoicmasculinity.com. Doesn't mean cold, it means clear. Clear in thought, clear in boundaries, clear in direction. Epictetus taught that everything in life falls into two categories: what's within our control and what isn't. A woman's love, not in your control. Her loyalty, not in your control. Her perception of you, definitely not in your control. But your standards, your discipline, your reaction, those belong entirely to you. So guard them, protect them like a sacred temple. Because if you abandon those for anyone, no matter how beautiful, how loving, how magnetic she is, you've already surrendered the throne. And what is a man without his throne? Just another servant, calling it love. Epictetus would tell you, do not wish for things to happen as you want, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. So if she leaves, wish her well. If she tests you, thank the lesson. If she doubts you, let her. Because you don't need her to believe in you when you already believe in yourself. The world doesn't need more men who chase love. It needs more men who embody it through discipline, presence, and stillness. A man who knows himself becomes untouchable, not because he's arrogant, but because he's anchored. Not because he's emotionless, but because his emotions have direction. So remember this: the one thing a man should never do with a woman, never give her the power to make you forget who you are. Love her, cherish her, protect her, but never, ever worship her. Because when you make her your God, you'll always be her follower. But when you make virtue your God, you'll always be your own leader. That's the Stoic truth modern men need to relearn. That's how Epictetus would love, without attachment, without fear, without losing himself. And if you can live that truth, then no heartbreak, no rejection, no silence will ever destroy you again. Because you'll know, you were not born to be owned, you were born to be whole. And in that stillness, that sovereignty, that unshaken calm, you'll find something greater than love itself: freedom.